Hey, how are you folks? Jason Horowitz, CBSSports.com's NFL columnist Clark Judge. Glad to be with you here on the End Zone on CBSSports.com, heading into championship weekend. And Clark, a lot of big notes here, but we have a great shot to have the first Super Bowl with one seeds, both one seeds, for the first time since this second Bills-Cowboys Super Bowl. But the Jets and the Vikings, they have a lot to say about that.
Well, yeah, especially I think a lot of people are looking at the Vikings as a team that sort of, you want to get them in there because of Brett Favre. I mean, for all the drama we went through in the summer, I think people coming back to Brett Favre's camp and saying, boy, it'd be nice. I know the people who are doing that game, which is CBS, would love to have Brett Favre in there. But you can't mess with Drew Brees either. I mean, there's not a loser in this game. But the interesting game to me is the other one, and that's the Jets, because you look at the three teams that are, the three other teams, and you say, well, geez, they all belong. But there's one team that really doesn't, and that's the Jets. Yet they do, and they believe in what their coaches say, and they remind me of a lot of last year's Baltimore Ravens. Rookie head coach, rookie quarterback, defense, and Rex was with that team. He was the coordinator, and the Ravens went this far and then stopped.
You know, the funny thing, too, is that they addressed that on Monday. They talked about the fact that, everyone's saying, hey, we didn't deserve to be in the playoffs because the Colts pulled their starters. Well, Rex Ryan is right. They still had to win that ball game with whomever was on the field. They did. They still had to beat the Bengals. And guess what? They've proved their worth by winning at San Diego and winning at Cincinnati in the playoffs.
No question about it. They don't have to apologize for where they are. Not at all. They just have to take advantage of it, and that's what they're doing. They showed me a lot in San Diego last week. I was at that game. The Chargers, I think, are a better team, but they weren't that day. And the Jets took advantage of some mistakes, and they wore them down. I think they're looking at this game as the same sort of possibility, except there's really one difference here. And you look at Indianapolis's record. They lost 2 games. Well, they didn't really lose them. I mean, they kind of gave them away. They didn't play their starters. And yeah, I know what the Jets are saying. We were 15-10 in that game when Peyton Manning stepped aside. You were still behind, and I don't think there was anyone in that building who felt that day that had Peyton Manning played, they would have won.
That's true, but this defense has not given up more than 15 points since that game. Even before that, because they only gave up 10 the week before that to the Falcons. This defense can shut you down, and we have seen Peyton Manning start to turn the football over late in this season. Is that something that they should be concerned about in this weekend?
Well, sure. I mean, to me, that's the one hope for anyone on that Jets team is turnovers. And you look what happened with Phillip Rivers last week. I mean, that third quarter killed the Chargers. And as I said, they wore them down. You can wear them down if you're getting short fields, you're getting the takeaways. This team does turn the ball over. This team does get the turnovers and gets the takeaways. But Indianapolis is a different ball club. You don't fluster Peyton Manning. He's been here before. Phillip Rivers really hadn't. I mean, Phillip Rivers needed to prove something. Peyton Manning doesn't need to prove anything. And as I said, they're at home, they're in their own venue, they're in their own backyard, and they know that when Peyton Manning was in the lineup, no matter whether it was against the Jets, the Bills, anyone, if he were playing in the lineup, they weren't going to lose.
Yeah, and we'll talk about X factors in that game and the Saints and the Cardinals in a different segment here on the End Zone. Check that out on CBSSports.com. But let's switch to New Orleans and the Vikings and talk about the championship game here because you're talking about 2 great offenses and defenses that are playing at a high level right now. What do you think will be the key to that ball game?
Well, again, I think it could be turnovers. I mean, whenever you look at games like this with 2 good quarterbacks and 2 offenses that are as high geared as this, you're looking for the team that makes the mistakes. And here you've got the Saints, which capitalize on takeaways. And we saw that last week against the Cardinals. But then you look at the Vikings. I mean, they only had 18 turnovers this year. They don't turn the ball over. And yet what Brett Favre is known for is giving both teams a chance to win the game. But not this year. Only 7 interceptions. I will say the one X factor to me here is they're going in another person's building. They're 4-4 on the road. They're bulletproof at home. And also, Drew Brees at home, he's got the same kind of numbers as Brett Favre at home. 25 touchdown passes, 4 interceptions. I mean, he's really good at home.
The one difference here may be the fact that Brett Favre, all the factors here, we've been forced to throw the football.
Yeah.
We have not really seen Adrian Peterson. We've seen him in the end zone, but we have not really seen him burst out for a big game. Maybe this is the game that happens.
It could be. I mean, also, I think you're looking at a Saints team that sort of reinvigorated itself last week because they had not played a great game for 6 weeks. And when they come out, Sean Payton says so much for the rust factor. Well, I mean, they played a tired team and a team that couldn't tackle. This team can tackle. This is going to be a more formidable opponent. Nevertheless, the Saints are favored for a good reason. They're at home. They're successful at home. Yeah, I know they lost their last 2 at home before the playoffs, but they really seemed to convince people last week that they're back to where they are.
I've got the Colts and the Vikings for the Super Bowl, and I know CBS would love a Peyton Manning, Brett Favre Super Bowl. Who are you taking?
Well, I mean, I love the Colts, too. I don't see how the Colts lose in that game. I'm nervous about Minnesota going down to New Orleans. I'd love to see Brett Favre get to the Super Bowl, especially at the age of 40. It's a great story. I don't think it happens. I think the Saints find a way to win.
It may mean a lot more here for Drew Brees' legacy, because Brett Favre's legacy is cemented here.
That's right.
So this would mean a lot for Drew Brees if the Saints could get in. And remember, the Saints have never been to the Super Bowl, so we'll see what all plays out this weekend. It's Sunday. Get previews here on CBSSports.com. Check out the other End Zone segments as well. We'll break down X factors. And which quarterback do you trust the most this weekend? The obvious answer there, Peyton Manning, but is it when you're talking about the defenses that they're going up against? All that here on CBSSports.com. For Clark Judge, I'm Jason Horowitz. Take care, folks.